All right, Chinese Communist Party members versus Israeli agents. So CCP agents, intelligence agents versus Israeli agents, Israeli spies, Israeli operations within Australia. So we're going to talk about the difference between those today. It's not going to be a lot of detail. It's just going to be off the top of my head. As someone who has been reporting on Chinese Communist Party activity, not only geopolitically, but foreign influence within Australia for a decade this year. It's been a decade. I'm as good of an expert as there is when it comes to talking about this particular topic. And there's probably a reason why there's not this type of video online, is because most of the people that you're hearing from are either Israeli agents or Chinese agents or Indian agents or some political party, and they have a spin. I'm an objective observer that is a real Australian. I'm a rare type of human being with this particular type of knowledge and expertise. And so what I'm going to be bringing today is actually, I can't believe I haven't made this in the past. This is an awesome video to make. This needs to be shared, okay? So, the main, most obvious difference between a Chinese Communist Party spy and an Israeli spy is the Chinese spy is Chinese. And for low IQ, distracted, psyoped, average Australians or Americans, it's so easy to judge someone based on their race. If you look at a Chinese person, you go, oh, it's easy to just be skeptical of all Chinese and go, oh, they might be all spies. But an Israeli agent, they look like you. They're like a shapeshifter. They look like you, they act like you, but they go even further. They will change their name to Bob Smith, when really it is something Ovich or Netanyahu or some weird Berg or something. In the United States, they can have Berg and Goldberg and things like that. And what they'll also do is they will pretend that they're not Jewish. They will pretend that they're Christian or Catholic. They will even go to church, and they will hang out with Catholics and Christians, and nobody judges them. No one questions them. And they will pretend that they're a Christian or Catholic. They will wear a cowboy hat and pretend that they're Australian. It reminds me of Deng Xiaoping when he went to the United States about 30 years ago, when they were planning on opening up China to the United States market, and the United States wanted to move all these factories into China. Deng Xiaoping went to, I think it was a football or a baseball match, and he wore a cowboy hat, and everyone was like, yeah, he's one of us, he likes us. That was a big psyop, but it's even more believable because you see the Chinese guy and you know he's not American. But when an Israeli agent puts on a cowboy hat and goes to a basketball or football game and drinks beer with you, you think he's you. You think he's an American or an Australian when he's not. He's actually an operative from a foreign nation pretending to be just like you. And this has been happening in Australia for probably the last 40 years or more. And so that's the number one difference here, is that the Israeli agents, you can't tell the difference. And if they want to stay undercover, they can stay undercover for as long as they need to be. They will go to church with you. They will pretend to like the football. They'll pretend to like Australia. They will do anything they can to blend in. While a Chinese Communist Party spy, it's a little bit more difficult for them, isn't it? Because they just don't have the race advantage. Secondly, now, the other difference, because of how difficult it is to tell the difference between them, the Israeli agents, they end up working and thriving in countries with white people. So they could go to France And next thing you know, they're wearing a beret and they're eating baguettes and croissants all day long, and they're speaking French, and their name is Pierre now. And they're spending all of their time trying to get into the government and influence the government and influence the economy within that country, like a parasite trying to get in. The Chinese Communist Party tries to do that as well. Same in Germany, same in England. They speak English. Their names, their name's Will, and they, Charles, and they like drinking tea, and they blend in. They blend in, and if you were to question them, you'll be called a racist, or you'll be called crazy or conspiracy theorist. And so it's actually impossible to figure out who is an Israeli agent. It actually is impossible until they do the dirty on you. And once they do the dirty on you, the jig is up. But the thing is, once you figure out that guy's an Israeli agent, okay, well, he's busted. They'll just replace him with another one that pretends harder to be Australian or American or English or French or German. And so they have a massive advantage, and this is why they're so successful. The Chinese spy, on the other hand, has a lot more work to do. Has the brown nose, has to placate to your culture, and has to let you know that somehow, some way, that you can trust them. And there has to be a bit of a payoff, unfortunately, for the Chinese. And so the incentives, the Chinese has to work harder because they're seen as a foreigner. So they actually have to be competent. So for instance, if they're working for you, they have to be competent. There's questions. No one's going to help a Chinese Communist Party spy rise through the ranks. There's a plane going overhead. No one's going to help them rise through the ranks. They actually have to be superior and super duper competent and hardworking. Whereas the Israeli agent just needs to have other Israelis within the company that say, oh yeah, Bob over there, he's really good, he's the best. And they play the political games. They brown nose to whoever has the power. They get around, they steal that power from that person and hand it over to their buddies, other Israeli agents. And so the Chinese Communist Party agents have to legitimately get the PhD, be an expert, be hardworking, be competent, and they have to be so competent that another Aussie or an American or someone has to look at them and go, oh, let's let them through because they're just the best. They have to legitimately be the best. And this is why in Australia and America and other countries around the world, they have tiger mums. And these tiger mums are PLA agents. They're like drill sergeants that bring up children within, say, Australia and America. And from the age of 5, 6, 7, those kids, 5 a.m. in the morning, piano class. 6 a.m. in the morning, they have math class or like tutoring. 7 a.m. in the morning, they got to do 20 laps in the pool, and they go to school. Then after school, they're learning French, they're learning German. You see, these tiger mums that drive their Chinese children to thrive, it's because as a foreign agent, the Chinese Communist Party needs to legitimately be competent. There needs to be a transfer of knowledge or worth, or they have to add value. They have to be productive. They have to add a lot of value to rise through the ranks in your country. Whereas the Israeli, they don't have to be competent at all. All they have to do is get in there with each other, pretend to be one of you, and then constantly spruik each other to rise up the ranks, like parasites within your... Let's just say you've got a big business, you let some Israeli agents in there, they'll be cleaning the floors day 1, but day 20, one of them will be the CEO, because they'll constantly, as soon as they get in there, they'll say, oh, Bob over there, he's good, when really his name is Berg Netanyahu, whatever, Israeli dude. They'll say, oh, he's working really hard. Even though no one else in the company agrees that guy's working really hard, they have a group of other Israeli operatives within the company constantly astroturfing and spruiking and pushing each other up. And as soon as one gets up and they get a choice on who that they bring into the company, they will constantly bring other agents into their company. Um, some dude comes over, he's like waving at me while I'm on the. I'm trying to keep my thoughts. I'm trying to keep my thoughts. Jeez. Um, Come over to say hello. And so this is how the Israelis will rise through the company, while the Chinese legitimately need to be competent. Now, the other reason why a Chinese Communist Party member is a little bit easier to get on with, a little bit more friendly, and the Israeli agent is heavily on social media. They want to be lawyers, they want to be judges, they want to have the power, they want to be politicians and lock you up for saying anything anti-Semitic or whatever, and they're extremely vicious and violent people. Is because, like women, they're incompetent. They're actually incompetent. Now, this is why when I talk about China rising, is because, and I think that China's going to dominate no matter what. They are unbeatable. They are going to dominate Asia, and the United States will be lucky to remain second at the end of this, is because the people who run the West, the Israelis, with a lot of their influence, and there's a lot of competent Australians and Americans that run the West as well, but it's hard to keep focus when you've got agents constantly pulling and pushing and pulling and messing up with your system. Really difficult. The Chinese built that country from nothing with other Chinese. They had to be competent, they had to be hardworking, they had to be logical, they had to work together. My opinion, why the Israelis have never had their own land, is because they're incompetent people. They're snarky, they're aggressive, they can't do anything themselves. Their only real skill is influence campaigns, propaganda, and brown nosing and astroturfing within companies and within countries to put their people in positions of power so that they can feed off the rest of us. And this is why a lot of people say that, oh, the Israelis control the parasitic Israelis, they control the finance system. Well, they don't necessarily control the finance system anymore, and they're not all bankers, but generally that's how they behave, like a parasite feeding off a host. And if that host dies, then they have to go somewhere else. And this is why Europe has so many problems. It's because the Israelis dominated Europe for such a long time, and this is why the Middle East is constantly at war, because of the Israelis. And this is why Australia is now starting to fall apart, because of the Israelis. It's as simple as that. You go to China, it's peaceful, there's no crime. You go to the United States, they're like, where was Seinfeld filmed? Like, you walk out on the street, you're going to get stabbed by some druggie over there. It's impossible to get by in any place that an Israeli has dominated. They're a parasite that kills the host. The Chinese, on the other hand, they prop it up, they build it, and they cut you out. But they're the ones that are extremely competent, hardworking. They're the alpha males of the world right now. I hate to say it, but my species, whatever you would call me, we are like, we're the host. We're the most Australians are like autistic, low IQ, easily distracted, drunk, watching the footy, hardworking, honest, trustworthy, g'day mate, I'll look out for you. And we're being taken advantage of by this parasitic host. Parasite, basically, you're talking, Whereas if the Chinese were to take over, what would happen is there would be Chinese cities, wouldn't there? There'd be Chinese cities like Chatswood. I was reporting from Chatswood for years. Chatswood is a city, a legitimate city built by the Chinese. It could be an independent part of Sydney. It could be its own city very soon, because the Chinese are so competent, they will rebuild everything in their name, and they will cut you out totally. And so there's a reason why, now moving forward, now we understand kind of the psychology behind the two of them. There's a reason why they hate each other. Now, a little bit of history will explain to you guys what really went on over the last 30, 40 years. Is everyone agrees that factories left the United States, Australia, Britain, Europe, with United States go ahead. We're like, oh, all right, mate, we'll send all of our technology to China. Good idea, mate. And we'll get some cheap labor in return, because those Chinese will never figure it out, right? They did figure it out, you know? Now, who was behind that? Henry Kissinger, who was an Israeli agent. An Israeli agent working for the parasites within the United States. The United States is so powerful and rich that the parasites are going to have a lot of trouble killing that host, because that host has been one of the most powerful countries the world has ever seen. But they will kill it, like they kill every host that they get their hands on. And they're killing Australia faster than anyone could have imagined. Within 30 years, they're literally killing Australia. Britain was killed with Soros. That was like the death of Britain, when George Soros went in there and almost destroyed the pound. Now, what happened was, we started sending our factories, our technologies, our know-how to China. The Chinese were basically in dirt, basically. They had no technology. They were lucky to have a bike, basically. They didn't have any technology at all. In fact, I remember an old video of Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, if you know his history, he's an Aussie, a trustworthy Aussie bloke that tells you the truth, even at his own detriment. And the Israelis came after him hard. In the early days, he was on Ray Martin's TV show. I posted it on this channel, by the way. That's one of the most viewed videos on this channel, where Mel Gibson said, we're sending all of our steel manufacturing technology to China. And that's taking jobs away from Australians. Mel Gibson said that in the 80s. Okay? Mel Gibson, more recently, has got in trouble with the Israelis, quite famously. Now, the issue here is, the Israelis took over politically the financing and the technology that hardworking Americans, hardworking Australians invented with their blood, sweat, and tears, and defended their right to be able to manufacture and engage in capitalism. And then the Israelis took stole all that technology by getting involved politically. And they turned the United States and Australia and other Western nations from mercantilist, protectionist countries into globalized countries with globalized companies run by the Israelis, so that they could send our technology that we developed, our brains developed, our hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, not the Israelis. And they sent it all to China so that short term they could manufacture with slave labor. And the long-term strategy for the Israelis was to operate the exact same way they operate in Australia today, but in China. Now, leave a comment if you know what went wrong there. Well, if you're an Israeli agent and you're in China, you don't look Chinese. And if you don't look Chinese, then you're not getting into the Chinese Communist Party. You see? And if you don't look Chinese, people aren't going to listen to you. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to learn Chinese. You're going to have to be harder working than the Chinese to rise through the ranks within China. And the Israelis are lazy, dumb, arrogant pieces of shit that aren't able to compete with the Chinese. They're just not able to do so. They're lazy, arrogant, snarky, carrot up the arse type of people. While the Chinese, they come to our countries with the exact same xenophobia, and they dominate because they're actually superior. I hate to say it. My people, the people that look like me, we're like third tier people worldwide. The top's the Chinese. The second, I would say, the Israelis, because they have a unique strategy of being parasites of us, the cattle, the sheep. Um, it's sad to say that, but it's true. It is true. The Israelis are better than us, but the Chinese shit all over the Israelis. And whenever you hear a really angry white-looking man complaining about the Chinese Communist Party, they're doing this, his dad lost a lot of money in China, and they know that they lost to the Chinese. They weren't able to imagine that when you were an Israeli agent taking factories and taking technology out of the United States to China, you were dealing with people that had absolutely no idea, like the the technology that you were bringing to China was so advanced that the Israelis were like aliens basically. And the Israelis had such an advantage, the same way they have a massive advantage over the Palestinians at the moment. Yet, the Israelis still got their ass kicked in China. China took the technology, took the factories, built the richest country on planet Earth, purchasing power parity, dominating the United States, and kicked all of the Israelis out within 30 years. That's how incompetent the Israelis are. Now, if there's any Israelis out there that want to dispute this, you should have given it to an Aussie like myself, and we would have dominated in China. You guys just stick to being parasites on our fucking country. Just stick to your political bullshit and accusing people of sexual assault that you don't like, that rise through the ranks, and assassinating people that you don't like. Stick to what you're good at. If a bunch of Aussies, a bunch of Mel Gibsons, a bunch of salt of the earth, real Americans took those technologies over to China, would probably still be in control. But the Israelis sit around like fat asses they are, and they squandered all that technology and all of that wealth because they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to control it. They didn't know how to protect it in China. This is the real story of why China rose. It's the incompetence of the parasitic Israeli agents that we allowed to take our technology and our factories out of the country. That's what really went on. And you cannot dispute this because we know Henry Kissinger opened it up. We know that when all of these factories went over there was an Israeli doing it. We know that the Chinese Communist Party were like loving all the technology coming in. They took it, they built nuclear weapons, they built all the factories, then they stole our blueprints for how to make a mobile phone from Apple, and then next thing you know, you've got Huawei, and they stole the code from Google. Next thing you know, they've got Baidu. They stole everything, and then they got WeChat, and all of that technology wasn't developed by the Israelis. What happened was the Israelis were at the top pulling the strings, and all of that technology was developed by you and me. And the Israelis squandered it because they thought that the Chinese were as dumb as us. And it's hard to really recognize this, but we are dumb. We are stupid people. We allow the Israelis. We work really hard. We invented almost I know I had a comment from some idiot saying China invented gunpowder and some other useless stuff. It's like Google every technology in the world and then look at what the guy's face looks like. None of them are Israelis. Zero. Zero were Israelis. And so that's really the story that's going. That's the story on why the Israelis and the Chinese kind of hate each other. But it's rare to see, apart from calling out Chinese party members and people with a little bit of influence in China, or Chinese operatives talking about the genocide that the Israelis are committing. But most of the time, it is Israelis attacking Chinese, saying that China is committing a genocide in Xinjiang with the Uyghurs, and the organ harvesting with attacking them because they're religious, the Falun Gong and Falun Dafa, and talking about the Dalai Lama and taking their land. The people who are really pushing that, apart from a real conscious Australian like myself that has been talking about it for now a decade. I'm so proud to be out here a decade and still out here on YouTube. I'm so proud of it. I keep talking about it. I need to have like a bit of a celebration sometime, actually. It's a big deal. It's like getting the golden watch, right? You've served your country online as a propagandist for the Australian people, like an actual propagandist for the right side within your own country against foreign agents. So come on, it's not like I'm not in China creating propaganda to attack them. I'm not in Israel creating propaganda to attack them. I'm in my own country playing defense. So that's why I'm proud of it. I should get a pat on the back, but the Australian government's controlled by you-know-who. So when you hear all of them getting so riled up, and at the moment we've got Peter Navarro pushing for heavy-handed measures against China, because Peter Navarro, I believe he's an Israeli agent. I don't think he's an American at all. I think Peter Navarro is an Israeli agent, and is someone who was not too far removed from Peter Navarro. And don't get me wrong, apart from coming across crazy, Peter Navarro is an actual genius. He's a genius. He's one of the smartest people in the White House at the moment, by far, and probably one of the most intelligent geniuses in the United States, if not the world. He's a legit genius. He comes across crazy, but this guy knows his stuff. Also, he's playing 3D chess. They want China bad because China just outcompeted them. China made a fool, and this is never going to be written down in the history books. This is really disappointing that it's not going to be written down in the history books either. There should be books written on it right now on how the Israelis went to this third world shithole where the Chinese couldn't even speak English, they couldn't communicate with them, and they gave them technology that was so advanced that the Israelis and the Americans, they were giving technology, and the Chinese thought that they were aliens. The technology was that advanced. And within such a short period of time, because genetically, racially, I know it sounds awful to say this, the Chinese are superior, they took that technology and they immediately started figuring it out, reverse engineering it, creating their own, building their own factories on the side, figuring out how we developed it, building technologies on top of our technologies. Within 30 years, they kicked the Israelis out. They kicked all of us out. And now we have the end of globalization because genetically the Chinese are just superior. And this is I'm objectively looking at this. Genetically, they have to be superior. There's no other way to look at it. And just, I'm being brutally honest with you that because the Israelis, which is another gene pool, they have a unique strategy of office politics and being snarky and attacking and constantly being defensive and on the edge, they have a unique way of controlling us. It's almost like they were genetically created by some entity to control us. I don't know. I don't know. If there's a God out there, I do kind of believe we're in a simulation. So I do believe that there is some sort of a God out there. Some of the things that I see and then happen, I feel like I'm in a bit of a simulation. Like recently, guys, I spent 6 months, and then this is why I'm a little bit pissed myself, because I'm the cattle that the Israelis feed off. I spent months in Cambodia reporting on foreign influence by China in Cambodia, didn't I? And what happened 6 months later? Leave a comment. You saw it. If you've been following me for 6 months, you saw it with your own eyes. I touched ground in Cambodia, and because it's basically in my blood to try to look for foreign influence, I looked at how the Chinese were influencing the Cambodians, and I reported on it for months. I even couldn't help myself but create quite a well-known TikTok within Cambodia talking about economics, but that's a topic for another day. I should be trying to make money, but this is just an obsession of mine. 6 months later, what happened? The country that got hit with the largest percentage tariffs, 49%, was Cambodia. Now, okay, maybe it was going to happen all along. But maybe this channel survives. And some of you have commented on why are some of my videos allowed to be on YouTube? Well, they've squashed me. I don't have reach. So some videos, if my videos take off and I get too many shares, do you guys remember it was only a couple of weeks ago, one of my videos was taking off and they removed the share button so no one could share my video anymore. Do you remember that? It was only a couple of weeks ago. They've squashed me in the algorithm, and I believe that people in the know use this channel as one tool to try to figure out, because they know that I'm a proper analyst. And they also know if they remove this channel, I'll just go do some other shit. I'm not going to rebuild this channel again. I will still be interested in what's going on there. They obviously have the ability to look through my entire phone, know who I'm talking to, and I don't hide anything. I don't use any special apps. I do everything. I'm transparent. I believe that I'm a free source of information on Chinese operations worldwide. That's what I believe. The second thing that recently that makes me think that I live in a bit of a simulation is, did you guys notice that like 2 days before, the largest green candles in S&P in the last 25 years in such a short period of time? 2 days before that, I made a video saying buy stocks, and I mentioned the S&P 500. And then a day later, I made another video saying buy stocks. And what happened? The largest move in 25 years. You can fact check me. Look at the channel. It's only a couple of days ago. I don't think it's arrogant to say that, is it? Because it's true, right? I predicted it happened. Like if you listened to me and threw all your money in there, you would have made the most amount of money on the S&P 500 in a short period of time than anybody else in the last 25 years. And you would have made it in a couple of days. So you're welcome for those that actually threw your money in. And someone was holding the ASX and they were thinking of selling. They saw my video, they left a comment saying, okay, well, I'll hold then. Thank God you held, because you gained a lot of your money back. So you're welcome to whoever that was in the comments. it makes me think we do live in some sort of a simulation, and that the is the Israelis have a purpose in the world, the same way I have a purpose in the world, the same way the Chinese have a purpose in the world. And throughout history, for thousands of years prior to this happening, this anomaly with the United States and Britain, uh, China dominated the world. They had the most advanced technology, the largest economy, the most peaceful place, law, rule of law and safe country. And they've just returned back to where they were for thousands of years. Now, my explanation for that, and I could be wrong, is that they're just racially superior people, superior beings. Okay? That's my take on it. So, we've drifted a little bit off topic, but it's still very much relevant, in my opinion. Now, in Australia, we are at the precipice of collapse, and I somewhat blame Israeli influence in Australia for that. Globalization's coming to an end. I'm going to put my geopolitical hat on. China's going to dominate Asia. Are we going to allow these foreign agents in Australia to continue to sell and send what's left of the resources that we have in this country while using the US dollar while it still exists to the Middle East? Or are the Australian people going to put the beer down, get the Ned Kelly cap on, armor up, and take back the country and start building nuclear power so that we can be energy independent, start figuring out who we need to sign deals with in Asia, try to normalize relations with China, try to send emissaries, start sending Marco Polos to Beijing, real Australians, to say, hey, look, it was the Israelis. We can blame the Israelis. We can tell them a story. They will believe it because it's true. America was controlling us. Can we just continue to sell shit to you, be friends? America's going to be really angry at us. Can we have some sort of a normalization? Or are we going to run down the path of Venezuela? Now, I'll tell you what I would be betting on. And so far, I've got a pretty good track record. S&P 500 gives me the right to make another bet, okay? I think that there's like a 99% chance that we end up like Venezuela because the average Australian just doesn't get it. And that the Israelis are just, they're just superior in every way down here. And because they dominate politically down here, the CCP members are going to get squashed. People like myself aren't going on Sky News, are we? Because I'm not an agent. You see, the other people on the other side, what is it? The other side of politics. I guess it's ABC and SBS. They just hate white men like myself anyway. They don't care about us. And they're probably, there is a tier of competency. The Chinese at the top, the Israelis underneath, men like myself. But it actually gets a lot worse. There's the women and all of the shitty immigrants that are running like SBS and ABC. They don't realize that we are superior. They don't treat us like that. And so they're constantly attacking us politically. They're snarky and they're attacking the competent white man because they are incompetent. The same way, the Israelis are nowhere near to the level of the Chinese. So the Israelis spend all their time politically attacking, being snarky, attacking the Chinese. But when the Chinese flip around and attack the Israelis are finished. The same way, if the average Australian white man steps in and starts attacking all of these useless immigrants and women that are politically dominating us, and we take back our country from them, then we'll have a little bit more freedom in our own country. But I don't see that happening either. I just don't see it happening. And so moving forward, as a white Australian man, your time is limited. And that's why I'm here. Now, I know, it's like, you're probably thinking I was born with a silver spoon jammed up my ass, right? No, I started out in a Maroubra ghetto. My father abandoned me at like 1 or 2 years old. He's an alcoholic piece of shit that never worked a day in his life. His job was changing light bulbs. He never came to see me on my 10th birthday, 5th birthday. This useless piece of shit didn't see me on my 16th or 18th. And I grew up with a single mother, a total psychopath, damaged psycho that grew up in an all-girls home because she was abandoned as a child, severely damaged psychologically. Started out in the ghetto. And then my mum remarried a psycho mechanic. It was another alcoholic piece of shit that used to bash me growing up. And as soon as things ended up going my way, I ended up needing 2 hip replacements. I had 3 major surgeries. If you can imagine, you have a surgery and you're out of whack for 6 months. So I look at my life and I'm like, I'm competent. And if you're like me, if you're an Aussie like me, I don't think there's anything that you can do. The Israelis are going to continue to tear apart the country. There's nothing you can do about it. They're just superior to us. They're just better than us. I see what they're doing, but there's no use even like identifying. I identified Sky News a little bit. I made a few videos about Sky News. But like, what's the point? What are any of you guys going to do about it? Nothing. Nothing's going to get done. Because the Israelis will always outthink you, outwork you, out politically maneuver you, and they will always dominate you because you're inferior to the Israelis. I'm sorry to say, but it's true. Otherwise, you wouldn't allow them to do that within your own country. The same way the Chinese are superior, they never allowed the Israelis to do it within their country. So whenever anyone wants to talk shit about a Chinese, we allowed them to dominate our country, while the Chinese didn't allow no one to dominate their country. They're the true alpha males that defend their land. We're the sheep, the cattle. It sounds offensive what I'm saying, but you can never, ever, ever improve yourself unless you know exactly where you stand. Hang on 1 second. Another plane's going overhead. Reminds us of 9/11, which was definitely the Muslims, right? Most of you sheep, not you that follow me, but most Australian sheep believe that that's what happened. Now, you can never improve yourself or change things unless you know what's really going on. Okay? The fact of the matter is that they are superior to you and the Chinese are superior to them. That's the hierarchy. And the runs are on the board. We're scoring. We're taking points as we speak. Everything is a point scoring game. We're taking points as we speak. And the Chinese are scoring. Chinese are kicking ass over the Israelis, right? Did you notice that? Remember when I had Aussie Cossack on the channel, and then Aussie Cossack, he ended up he ended up on Alex Jones, and then Aussie Cossack ended up getting in trouble. But Aussie Cossack was best mates with some Israelis. As soon as the war kicked off, they realized the real political game that's going on here. And then the Russian agents and the Israeli agents, they started hating each other because they realized that Russia's ascendancy was going to change the Middle East. And then you realize that, oh my God, there's an agent in Australia that goes, "G'day, mate. Wears a cowboy hat." And you think he's one of you, one of us. But he's not. There's always an agent. That's social media for you. And the few real Aussie influencers like myself, there's so few of us, and we don't work together because we're honest, hardworking, competent people that think that this game is fair. And you'll notice that whenever the Ben Shapiros get together, the Ben Shapiros and Dave Rubin, and you just go through Ben Shapiro's team, right? And you realize something that Australians never do right is they don't work together. They don't operate as a team and understand that it's us versus them within our own country. We treat everybody equally. We're told to treat everyone equally and to not be racist, not be xenophobic. If you don't make it, it's because you're not working hard enough. If you don't make it through the ranks, it's because, well, you did something wrong. But in reality, it's because the Israeli agents, they're astroturfing each other, not only on social media, but in big companies, and pushing each other up and working as a team, while secretly you're not allowed to know about it. The Russian agents are doing the same. The CCP agents are doing the same. And they might not necessarily be working for the government. They might just be working for themselves because they know that there is an incentive to work together because that's how they thrive. While the average Australian thinks he's an island on his own, doing his own thing, it's just not true, you know? And so us white Australian men, we need to stick together because we never have. And it's kind of, it's kind of sad when you think about it, but that's why we are a lesser man than the Israelis. The Israelis are superior to us. And this is why the Chinese are on another level than the Israelis. Just know your place. I know I'm third position. That's the truth. That's the facts. But even though I have a higher IQ, I still might be in a higher position than most other people. But still, I can't compete with the Israelis or the Chinese. And so when you look at it from this point of view, objectively, you take proper points scoring, proper analysis, where's Australia going to be? It's going to end up being a hollowed out husk of a country. And, it's only going to end up being some form of Venezuela in the not too distant future. I don't have anything positive to say, except you have an opportunity to get out there now. You have an opportunity to take your wealth and do something with it. Go and live life like I am at the moment. Go and enjoy your life. Get out there, get amongst it, and before it collapses, because when it collapses, who knows? You're going to be out of time. You have nowhere to go. So anyway, we're going up to 50 minutes. I've been talking this long. I should have went a little bit more in depth on the differences between them, but You guys get the gist of it. I guess I'll point out some agents in the future if I can be bothered. But if you're an Aussie, become a member. Where in the members section, I'm talking about uh, how I'm making money. I'm talking about what I'm doing behind the scenes so that I can thrive abroad. I recommend you do the same. So anyway, become a member, become an insider. Don't just be a supporter, be an insider so you can get the videos when I upload them. And I'll see you guys in the next video.